As she cradled the worn doll, its porcelain face cracked yet familiar, memories flooded her mind. Each stitch in its faded dress whispered tales of bedtime stories and whispered secrets shared in the dim light of her childhood room. The doll was more than a toy. It embodied the love of a mother who had nurtured her dreams and fears. Time had passed, yet the bond remained unbroken, a poignant reminder of innocence lost but forever cherished. Chapter 1: The Woman and the Doll. It was a chilly autumn morning when I happened to meet a man I hadn't seen in 2 years, John, the husband of a former psychiatric patient I had treated. I remembered him well. His wife's case had left a deep impression on me. Back then, we had just admitted a new female patient. She was pale, frail, and had vacant, lifeless eyes. Her appearance made her seem far older than the age listed on her file. In her arms, she clutched a cloth doll, swaying it gently while whispering lullabies. "Shh, go to sleep now, baby. Mommy's here." At first glance, she appeared to be a grieving mother who had lost her child and spiraled into madness. I turned to her husband for the backstory, and he began to recount their tale. Chapter 2: Her Past Life. His wife, Sarah, had once been a brilliant young doctor. Fresh out of medical school, she had volunteered for a humanitarian program and was assigned to a rural clinic in the mountains. With passion and determination, she provided care to the underserved community, becoming a lifeline for many. It was in that isolated region that Sarah met John, a soldier who had been gravely injured in an accident. When he arrived at the clinic, few believed he would survive. But Sarah didn't give up. She poured her heart and skill into saving him. John made a full recovery, and during his time of healing, a profound love blossomed between them. Despite the chaos of the times, their bond grew stronger. Chapter 3: A Wartime Romance. They saw each other only briefly and sporadically. John would hike for miles between assignments just to catch a glimpse of Sarah. Sometimes they barely had time to speak, but their hearts burned with longing. A year later, before John was deployed again, their units organized a small wedding for them. They had 2 days together before he had to leave again. After the war ended, they were finally reunited in the city where Sarah had resumed her medical career, and John continued his service in the military. 3 months later, Sarah shared the joyful news. She was pregnant. They were ecstatic. John doted on her, supporting her through the challenges of pregnancy. Though he was not used to domestic life, he tried his best to help. At night, they would sit together marveling at the baby clothes and toys John had bought. Not knowing whether they'd have a boy or a girl, he brought both dolls and tiny cars. Chapter 4: Thus, the day Sarah gave birth, John paced outside the delivery room, nervous and eager like all the other soon-to-be fathers. He flinched at every scream and smiled at every newborn cry. But their joy was not meant to be. Sarah delivered a baby girl, but the child was stillborn, deformed and lifeless. The doctors suspected that exposure to toxic substances in the region Sarah had worked might have been the cause. Sarah screamed and fainted. When she awoke in her hospital bed, her eyes frantically searched the room. "Where's my baby?" she asked, voice trembling. "Where is she?" John embraced her, trying to soothe her. But Sarah pushed him away in anger. "Who are you? What did you do with my daughter? Give her back!" John held her tighter. "Calm down, honey. I'll find her. I'll find our baby." Something in his tone reassured her. Her face softened, and she collapsed into his arms. The doctors gave a grim diagnosis. She had suffered a severe psychological breakdown. Chapter 5: The Doll. Following the doctor's advice, John bought her a cloth doll dressed in a light blue dress, Sarah's favorite color. When she saw the doll, her eyes lit up. She stretched out her arms and cradled it gently. "My baby, my little girl," she whispered. From that day on, Sarah never let the doll out of her sight. John took her home, hoping that familiar surroundings might help, but Sarah remained locked in her world of silence. Every month, John would pick up medication from the hospital. Still, she showed no sign of recovery. Her silence grew heavier with time. Chapter 6: A Ray of Light. When I asked John how she was doing now, bracing myself for bad news, he surprised me. "She's completely healed," he said, his eyes sparkling. "She talks, smiles. She's herself again." "How?" I asked, stunned. He told me that during a trip to a temple outside the city, they visited an orphanage. Hundreds of abandoned children lived there, and among them was a tiny infant being bottle-fed by a nun. Sarah's eyes lit up at the sight. She dropped the doll, rushed over, and took the baby in her arms. "My baby, my little girl," she whispered with joy. And then she spoke. Her first words in 2 years. Chapter 7, The New Beginning. John's voice trembled with emotion as he told me about the moment. "I cried like a child," he admitted. "I couldn't believe it." Sarah knew the baby wasn't biologically hers, but that didn't matter. Her heart had awakened. They adopted the child and named her Hope. With every smile from their daughter, Sarah's healing deepened. She began volunteering at the orphanage, helping care for other children, pouring her love into every little one who needed it. Chapter 8, The Power of Love. Sarah never forgot her first child, but she found a way to channel her grief into compassion. In time, the doll was stored away, not forgotten, but no longer needed. Hope grew up in a home filled with love, laughter, and stories of strength and survival. Sarah and John became pillars of their community, advocates for mental health and child welfare. And whenever someone asked Sarah about her journey, she would smile and say, "Love can bring back even the quietest soul." That day, as I watched John walk away, holding hands with a lively little girl and waving back at me, I felt an overwhelming warmth. Some stories don't need perfect endings, just deeply human ones.